As of posting this video, the premiere is days away, and my speculation here is based primarily on short trailers and vague press releases. But I have poured over all of this content and have put a lot of the pieces together in my other video, Who's Who in the Reboot. So here are all the miscellaneous details I have picked up surrounding the plot. There are no spoilers for the original or the reboot of the 4400 here. Note that all of this is speculation based on the promo materials for the reboot. In the original 4400, it was set in Seattle, Washington, and the 4400 were returned to the foothills of Mount Rainier, where the reboot is set in Detroit, Michigan, and the returnees are deposited in Belle Isle, a small island park next to the city. Through the trailers, we see them appearing separately as opposed to in a group. This is likely to serve the narrative, as we can jump directly into the show's plot without going through the original's extraneous comet plot. However, I do enjoy the comet scene, if for nothing else, then it provides an interesting red herring for the idea that aliens might be behind everything. Now, I think this change in cities is brilliant, and it holds a lot of promise for the show's future. I'll be posting a video going over in more detail the day of the premiere, explaining why I'm excited about this particular change in the reboot. The timeline of the original show had people abducted over the course of 50 years, with Maya being the earliest abductee in 1946. In the reboot, the character of Hayden comes from the 1930s, so this suggests a timeline of abductions of about 90 years. I suspect they might make him the earliest abductee similar to Maya. This gives the show more wiggle room to create even more extreme fish-out-of-water storylines as the show goes on. The premise of both shows appear to be identical. They both deal with unwilling time travelers returned in an instant, having not aged a day, and with no memory of what happened to them. Based on press releases, there are three factors that the 4400 have to deal with upon their return. A life interrupted, which is the tagline of the original show, returned with a few upgrades, which alludes to their supernatural abilities, and the increasing likelihood that they were brought back now for a reason they're only beginning to understand. This is referring to the mysterious ripple effect of their actions. So this is still the same premise as the original. There is no promise that will follow through on that big season 1 reveal from the original, but it seems to be leaning that way. The original show focused heavily on the two Homeland Security agents, Tom and Diana. This gave the original series a buddy cop drama feel, even though it diverged significantly from the tropey nonsense of a typical network television. And by the end of season 2, NTAC appeared to be an agency on its own that acted exclusively towards monitoring the 4400. In some trailers, we can see the bus the 4400 standing in front of is labeled Department of Homeland Security, so maybe the same organization is involved here. Jarrell and Keisha appear to be more distanced from Homeland Security, with positions as a social worker and a parole officer respectively. Nevertheless, as the press release states, the two of them are tasked with understanding the 4400 phenomenon, analyzing the potential threat, and containing the story. These characters have also been described as civil servants. These are people whose job it is to facilitate aspects of the government. In my experience, people tend to use this phrase when trying to distance themselves with stereotypes associated with politicians, elected officials held to a standard of political parties. The term civil servant is often a softer phrase used for someone appointed to a position to engage in a specialized task for the government. Obviously there is crossover, but this phrase is meant to evoke that these two characters are, or will eventually move to the side of the 4400. Perhaps even in times when the government is acting against them. If this show really wanted to explore interesting ground, it would play with that conflict between duty to the people and commitment to the government, something the original show dabbled in, but has a lot more room to explore, especially if the characters aren't in cop-like roles and more administrative roles. But civil servant could mean just about any role in the public sector. Again, everything in this video is wild speculation. For a more thorough analysis, be sure to watch my episode-by-episode breakdowns that will be released after each episode airs.